As far as for safety, no, I would never have done it. We move a lot of people here. So the places where we move people, generally speaking, the areas themselves are extremely safe. I believe, and I hope I'm not saying anything which is controversial, Americans are a bit of a protected class in Mexico. Nobody bothers the Americans. It's very bad for business.
Welcome to Live by Design Mexico Edition, the podcast about creating freedom, adventure, and a life in Mexico that's truly your own. I'm your host, Taniel Chemsian. If you've been dreaming of warmer days, smarter investments, and a future designed on your terms, your journey starts here. Each week, we'll share stories, insights, and strategies to help you make Mexico not just your destination, but your new way of life. This isn't about waiting for that someday. It's about living by design, starting now. So let's get to it. Hey, Chuck, thanks for joining us today on the podcast.
Daniel, it's an absolute pleasure. I've been following you, and it's great to have the opportunity to be able to speak with your audience. And you're awesome. So thank you for inviting me.
Man, well, thank you. Well, that's a better intro than the one I just gave you, huh? So, Chuck, tell me, you live in Mexico. Where in Mexico do you live, and how did you wind up there?
We have two different houses. The one I'm talking to you right now is on the shores of Lake Chapala. It's in the state of Jalisco, just south of Guadalajara, about an hour. So I'm looking at the lake right now. I could even turn this around. Well, that probably wouldn't be very professional, but you could see it's beautiful.
Lake Chapala is really nice. I've been there before, yes.
It's wonderful. And we also have a house in Sonora. If you were to go to Tucson and go south about 5 hours, you'd hit the Sea of Cortez, and that's where the house is. So we have a house there as well.
What city are you in Sonora?
San Carlos.
San Carlos. How did you discover? Not too many people know San Carlos. How did you discover San Carlos?
Well, people know it. We used to live in southern Arizona. So there, they'll go to Rocky Point or Puerto Peñasco, depending on how you want to say it.
Puerto Peñasco.
And I was told, you know what? You should just go directly south and see. So it was actually sort of a longer story, but we had traveled through Mexico for 8 months prior to deciding where we wanted to go. And one of the places where we stayed is a tiny little fishing village called El Sargento, which is in between La Paz and Cabo. And my wife loved it there. It was a great place, but no infrastructure. I mean, when we went, essentially none. So we said,
and how long ago was this, would you say?
That was about 7 years ago. Yeah. So maybe it's better now. And with satellite internet, I think a lot of things have changed, and a lot of places maybe that were too remote in the past, if you need to have internet connectivity, are now much more within reach. So maybe we'd have a different idea now. But so that was about 7 years ago. We loved it. We always wanted something like that, but it was not practical for us. So we just looked on a map and we tried to figure out other places which may be interesting. And as you know, within Mexico, it's very easy to get around from place to place by plane. So we checked it out, and my wife immediately loved it and wanted to buy a house. And this was at a time when you could get a house at a very good price. And it's right on the beach, something that would be, I know we're going to talk about this later, but you and I are from Southern California. What would it cost for a house on the beach in Southern California?
Oh, millions and millions and millions.
Ours is less.
Can you share with us how much you bought it for?
It would be embarrassing at this point. It's right on the beach, the equivalent at that time. And this is about 3 or 4 years ago, $300,000.
What?
Yeah. Right at the house is probably about 3,000 square feet, 2 stories, incredible view. It needed work. But once again, in Mexico, the cost of getting work done is a lot less than it would be in the US. So it becomes much more feasible. So when you look at a house and you say, wow, it's got good bones, and I love the view and everything else, but it needs a lot of work. Okay, have at it. And my wife has been doing that since that day, which has kept her extremely happy and extremely busy ever since.
So how much First of all, $300,000 on the beach is insane. And I've never been to San Carlos. I've seen photographs. It looks so charming, so pretty. And the water there is just spectacular. You know, I've noticed some of the regions, it's almost like a little tiny cove in a sense. And the water it's magical. For 300,000, how much would you say you guys put into the house to get it to where it's at today?
I don't know, because to figure it out would probably make me unhappy. But we did things like we put in all new windows, right? Like not the most, but in the United States, it would have been, I wouldn't even have thought of it, wouldn't even have considered it. All new windows. She essentially took it down. She put in new windows, new doors, changed the configuration of rooms. She did a lot of stuff. It would be a wild guess.
Okay.
Between maybe $60,000 and $100,000, somewhere in through there.
Okay.
But now it's exactly to her specs.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of go back a little bit before you guys started this journey of going through Mexico for 8 months and settling where you're at now. Prior to that, Southern California, that's where you lived. What prompted you guys to leave the States and move to Mexico? Were you considering other places? Was there a catalyst? Did something happen? You guys retired? What was it?
Well, first, we didn't move from the LA area. We had moved to southern Arizona, in the Tucson area. I was probably, I guess, how old was I? Probably in my late 50s at that time. And I always considered the possibility of, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. In economics, you will call it arbitrage, where you can lead a better life for less money. It always fascinated me. Why would that be? How does that work? And I never really tried it. So we had a house in the Tucson area, a place called Oro Valley. And we sold the house, put everything that would not fit into a big white van in storage or gave away. And we got in a van with 2 dogs, and we crossed the Mexicali, and we went through Baja and took the ferry across and it was an incredibly great time. Almost 8 months, we went all the way down to the border with Belize. But as far as why we did it, it was more like, why not? You know, we're able to do this. Mexico is right over, you know, when you live in Tucson, you know, you could be there in about an hour. And we suspected there might be more to Mexico than we were aware of. And, you know, if you're healthy and you could do it, it doesn't cost much. Most of the cost of vacations is airfare and so forth, but you know, you could get the equivalent of Airbnbs very reasonably. So if you have this opportunity, the bigger question would be, why wouldn't you do it? Why would you just stay where you are? I don't know. So it was a great adventure. I'm sorry, Tanya, go ahead.
No. So for you guys, then it was just basically the curiosity about living better for less. I mean, what you would say that was the reason?
Having a different lifestyle, having a great life. Let's see. We were just curious. The curiosity is a good word. We were just curious to see how it worked, what would happen. We had done, like a lot of people who were interested in this subject in general. You know, we had seen the TV shows and the magazines and so forth. And some of it, you sort of wonder how true it is. So we figured we'd find out. And there was really no reason not to. Why would you not? It doesn't cost anymore. Here you're able to go on this incredible adventure for almost a year, and it would cost you less than sitting in your house in the U.S. So why wouldn't you do that?
Sometimes the property tax for 1 year is going to cost more than your journey of traveling, right?
It's not as bad as LA, but it was significant.
Yeah. So basically, you guys were homeless. You get in your RV, and you guys just basically hit the road for 8 months, not knowing where you're going to wind up. So basically, you're just kind of experimenting from place to place, right?
We didn't know anything. We didn't know any Spanish hardly either. Almost nothing. We were complete newbies. That was part of the allure of it, is to see what would happen.
So from Baja California, you guys wound up in San Carlos?
No, we never went to San Carlos. So we drove from Mexicali, we drove all the way down through Baja, and we went on the eastern side, which is the Sea of Cortez, which is completely different than the Pacific side. So the Sea of Cortez is flat and clear and gorgeous, and there's close to nobody there. It's absolutely magnificent. So you drive down and you look and you see beaches that are prettier than Southern California all along the way. Essentially nobody there. You want to stop, you go down, and there's a guy comes up, shows up from nowhere with some shrimp or other stuff. It was a wonderful time. We wound up staying in a little fishing village called El Sargento, which essentially no one ever heard of, in between Baja and Cabo. My wife we didn't actually have no plans. She knew we were going to stay for the night, each place, and we had a plan B in case there was a problem. So we stayed in a yurt. Do you know what a yurt is?
No.
I didn't. We stayed in a yurt in a place called San Ignacio. It's essentially like a tent that's round, and it's on a river. And everything that was unusual, we wanted to see. So we went up staying there for 6 weeks. The idea was to stay in places that expats may find interesting or that we may find interesting for about 6 weeks at a time. So we went from there. We took the ferry across, which goes to Mazatlan. We stayed there. We went to Nayarit, a little bit north of where you are. Stayed in Lo de Marcos. Do you know Lo de Marcos?
Yes, I do.
We stayed there for a while. Then we started to go to the Mexican highlands, which was a complete revelation to me because a lot of people in the United States have limited experience with Mexico. Maybe they've been to Tijuana. I had been to Tijuana. I've been to
Tijuana. Yeah.
Yes.
We've all been to Tijuana.
It's a big city, and I'd been there from a time I was very little, and it was pretty horrific at one time. It wasn't so great. And then we went to Cabo, and we went to Club Med somewhere, and that was it. So when we started to go across the highlands, I would see these gently rolling hills and very low density, and these little villages along the way. It was so incredibly picturesque. The weather was great. We wound up going to where we are now, Lake Chapala area. We went to San Miguel. We went to Puebla, all the way down to Merida, to Quintana Roo, to Cancun and Tulum and Akumal and all that. And went all the way down with the border with Belize. And then we decided, this is an incredibly great place. Why would I not want to be here? The cost of living was, I don't know, 60% off, 70% off. Like, it was incredible. We were staying at these incredible, like, resort type places for $50 a night. Couldn't do that in the US.
No.
So everything, it was just so easy and so nice. We figured, you know what? Why don't we stay here? And that's what we did. But I know we'll get to this later, but our household goods were not with us. They were in Arizona because we didn't even know if we'd like it here.
So, Chuck, you guys drove around for 8 months. So let's talk about safety and the roads, because that's one of the biggest concerns, one of the biggest topics that come up all the time is Mexico safe? At least in the U.S. news, whenever they show Mexico, it's usually something negative. So what was, and just spill the beans. I mean, just be truthful. Did you guys ever feel in danger? Were there some rough patches? So what was it like for 8 months driving all through Mexico, which sounds incredible to me, all those places you just mentioned?
I recommend it. We never had any problems at all. Now, maybe that's changed. I don't know. Would we do it today? We would probably not go to certain areas. But however we would go.
Why is that? Because, you just didn't like that city, or why wouldn't you go back?
I think there are certain places on the road. Now, I got to be very clear. This is on the roads, not in the places where people live. We live in a place here at Lakeside. There are old ladies that are like in their 80s with canes walking around. Nobody bothers them. And it's incredibly safe. I wouldn't live in a place. I wouldn't have my wife at a place that's unsafe. I wouldn't have driven through Mexico with my wife if I thought it was unsafe, but it wasn't. There was no issues whatsoever. You see smiling people everywhere. People are very helpful. There was one event all the way down, I forgot where it was, where, we thought that the guy, I couldn't quite certain what the guy was asking, thought maybe he wants, something. So we gave him 100 pesos, which is $5. And we were on our way. So as far as for safety, no, I would never have done it. We move a lot of people here. So the places where we move people, generally speaking, the expat areas, the areas themselves are extremely safe. I believe, and I hope I'm not saying anything which is controversial. Americans are a bit of a protected class in Mexico. Nobody bothers the Americans. It's very bad for business. I don't know if it would be the same if you were Mexican. When we told our Mexican friends we were in the United States that we were going to travel through Mexico, they were horrified. And maybe it would be horrifying for them, but it's not for us. We're clearly Americans, and nobody bothers us. And if anyone finds out that anyone bothers us, they're in big trouble. So I think it's extremely safe here, as safe as any place that I would be in the U.S.
So Chapala, you guys settled down over there. You guys named off like 10, 15 cities you guys have been to. So why did you settle on Chapala? Why is Chapala so special for you? And how long have you guys been living there now?
First, I have to be very clear that people like different things. And just because Chuck and Jet, that's my wife, likes it, doesn't mean that it's better for other people, right? Some people like blue, some people like green. So I wouldn't take anything that I have to say would be like everyone would like it or everyone wouldn't like it and so forth. Weather for me is very important. So Lake Chapala is up at over 5,000 feet. So it knocks off some of the heat that you would have otherwise. Mm-hmm. And it's on the biggest lake in Mexico, which will moderate even further. It never gets too hot and it never gets too cold, which I like for me. Other people may like the beach. We're not on the beach. We used to be 6 hours from the beach. Now maybe from what I hear is like 3.5 hours to the beach.
Yeah, the new highway that connects to Guadalajara, it really cuts down that commute.
I've not tried it. Have you tried it?
I've been on part of it, and it's a beautiful wide highway, brand new. It's fantastic. In the old days. You'd have to meander through the mountains, and if there's an accident or there's bad weather, I mean, you can get stuck up there for, between 5 and 6 hours. But now I think it's around, some people have said between 2.5, 3 hour drive. I don't know what speed they're going to get there, but apparently it's cut down the commute in half.
Yeah, to Guadalajara. Yeah, we're a little bit further. People like different things. We like it here. We live in a community that is sort of a big fraccionamiento. Mm-hmm. And we love the people. We love the fact that it's a village. It's not too big. If we need to get on a plane, we could do it in Guadalajara. It's a big city, but we don't have to go there. So I'm not a big fan of big cities. So this works for me. There are places where it's like the whole town is like 6 streets wide and people know each other. It's a nice place. There are plenty of places that we would live. This is just one of them. My wife saw a particular house with an incredible view that for her, the comfort of the dogs is really important. So it has a nice big yard and the dogs are running around. If you don't have dogs, if you don't want to and she wanted a garden, so there's gardening. But, people like different things. Other people want to be in a condo where they shut the door and that's it, and they leave and they can go travel. That would be for them. And maybe at a different point in our life, we may agree with that as well.
So you guys decide to settle down in Chapala. All your stuff's in the States. So now it's time for you to bring that across the border. What was the logistics like in moving everything across the border? Did you hire movers or how did that work?
I had no idea what to do. I knew nothing about moving whatsoever. I asked my wife to get some estimates, and I knew she really wanted her stuff. She's very attached to her stuff. And several weeks went by, and I finally had to ask her, what's going on? Where are the estimates? Well, what it turned out, Taniel, is she was afraid to show me the estimates because she thought that when I saw how much money it was, I would say no. I probably wouldn't have, but I would have thought about it. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that they were very confusing, very unprofessional, in addition to the high price. When I would call them, they wouldn't call me back. But when I finally reached them, I couldn't get the same answer twice, except for one thing they were very clear about. And that was, if anything happened at the border, it's going to be my fault, and I'm going to have to pay a huge fine. Well, so I was sort of considering that. Let me think about that. Sort of, we have low clarity.
So I'm sorry, really quick, Chuck.
Yes.
I mean, what does that mean? So you're responsible for packing everything up. Do they come over, pick it up, or do you have to drive it to the border? They take it over from there. What does that mean exactly?
Well, there's all different ways to do it. The legitimate way to do it, if you go with a traditional international moving company, is they want to do all the packing and loading, and then they do what's called transloading and consolidating, and like a month later, you get your stuff.
Okay.
I didn't like that either, right? So what does that mean? This may be getting into the weeds a little bit, but this is why we decided to look into it. So high price, everything else. Plus, how would they do it? They have to do all the packing and loading, costs a lot of money. We don't get to choose. Whoever the licensee is, or the origin agent, they call it in that area, that's who you get. And then when they put your stuff in the truck, they don't go to where most people think they go. What they do is they go to a warehouse. And what they do is they take your stuff out of the truck and they put it in a warehouse. That's called transloading.
So that warehouse would be on the U.S. side or on the Mexico side?
It's right next to where you start your move. So if you start your move in Seattle, it's in Seattle because that's the origin agent, right? That's where he is, or he or she, and that's where they do the packing and loading, and they get in their truck and they drive a couple miles to their warehouse and they put it in their warehouse. That's called transloading. Then what they do is they wait for enough other people's stuff to come to combine your stuff with their stuff. That's called consolidating. And by the way, the transloading, that's why they like to put your stuff in those big wooden boxes, is so they could put a forklift underneath it and move it around. And then when they get enough other people's stuff, they consolidate it, is what they call it, with yours, put it in a big 53-foot trailer and take it to the next place where they do it again.
So basically your stuff could be sitting there for a while until they have a trailer full of products or people's home goods?
Goes in that truck. And then they go to the next. So here's the thing. That doesn't happen once. To use the example I just stumbled on, if you started out in Seattle and you wanted to go to Puerto Vallarta, that'll happen probably 6 or 7 times, half in the U.S., half in Mexico. And if you're
loading and unloading, basically.
In and out with the forklift.
Interesting.
That's why, have you ever heard of people sometimes getting other people's stuff?
Yes, it's happened. Yes, sure.
That's
why.
That's why. And if you're
so Chuck, when you say it's expensive, can you give us like a price range of what these estimates look like?
It was a little hard in our case because they didn't even get the amount we're taking correctly. It was a long time ago. Well, let's look at it this way. Right now, they would probably charge around $25,000 to go from where we were in southern Arizona to where we are here at Lakeside.
That is pricey.
It got my attention.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I did what most people would do. I said, I'm not paying that. And I looked at alternatives. I tried to figure out, I'll talk my gardener into it. I'll talk his cousin. We'll get it. And unbelievably naive. The amount of naivete is incredible, but I don't know why I would know any better. It took me the better part of also 8 months to figure out how to do it legally and correctly, because there's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down, and people will give you information that's not correct all the time. And it's difficult to figure out what the truth is. So our first move is our own. You may watch it on, we did a video of it. We had no idea whether it was going to work or not. And that was about 6 years ago. And since then, we moved almost 800 families. People started calling us.
So you started a business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so
I started
now
a lot of them. I know how to do that. I know how to research an industry. That's what I used to do in the United States. Started a number of different businesses. I had no idea anything about this one, but it's not foreign to me. So it seemed like an incredible opportunity. I had absolutely zero plans to do that before I came here. I knew nothing about moving and really no intention on doing anything. So yeah, we started a business. That's why we started it.
So what is your moving company called?
It's called Best Mexico Movers. I'm trying to show you right here, but it's probably back.
Oh, okay.
That's
there you go. Oh, you got all the merchandise on. Okay.
I got all the merch.
Okay, you got it.
You know what?
Right.
I should have sent you a hat. You could have been wearing the hat at the same time.
I could have put it on the wall right there, huh?
Yeah, but you have beautiful
poster.
hair, so I don't know that you want to do that. Huh?
Well, it's kind of
it's very nice.
It's morphing into something else. So Best Mexico Movers. I got to tell you, Chuck, I have a lot of clients who buy property here, and they want to ship their furniture from the States, to Mexico. And I always tell them, look, if you got a leather sofa, a leather couch, it's not going to work in the tropics. So, there are some things, I know there are some pieces people are really attached to. There's family heirlooms and what have you. But I always have a difficult time finding actual movers, because some of the companies that we used to refer, they're no longer in business. So this is really great that you started this business, because this is something that to service that people need continuously, and it's very difficult to find reputable people. Like you said, every time you would call, you get a different answer. They don't pick up the phone, and the cost is just astronomical. And the fact that they're telling you, well, if something happens on the border, it's your fault, which I don't see how that could be, but they're the ones that are packaging everything. But anyways, that's another conversation. So tell me, when you started this business, what advice do you give people when they contact you guys and they want to move their household goods down to Mexico?
Well, first, I'll try to figure out how much they're taking, because some people are taking such a small amount that it doesn't make any sense to work with a legitimate international moving company. And as an example, if you take your stuff in your own vehicle, you could drive your items in. I've done that a lot of times. I drive across the border all the time, take stuff back and forth. I don't need an international moving company to do that. But once you get to a certain amount of stuff, the Mexican customs officials will not allow you to cross over. You can't get in the truck and drive your stuff across. They won't allow it. Mexico has set aside a particular way of doing this called the menaje de casa. The menaje de casa is the way in which the Mexican government allows us to import our used household goods to Mexico one time, tax-free. Any legitimate mover will use the menaje de casa.
Do you have to be a temporary or permanent resident of Mexico in order to do that, or can you just be a regular tourist?
Well, first off, if you're a Mexican national with a valid Mexican passport, you can do it. And we're doing a lot of that right now. So they use the menaje de casa as well. You have to have at least started your residency visa. Either your temporal or your permanente, doesn't make a difference, either one. And that you would get, typically, if you're from the US, you would get it at a Mexican consulate in the US. And they'll put a sticker in your passport. And once you have that sticker in your passport, you're good to go.
Now, so it's basically the same thing. When I moved here 2003, once you became a resident, you could make one shipment of all your goods down here and not pay any taxes or duties on them. So it sounds like that's still the case. But there's a lot of paperwork you have to fill out, don't you? Like you have to itemize every single thing that's in the container, or they don't do that anymore?
You do. But I have to be careful now because I'm trying to be universal in order to give your audience the greatest understanding that's not specific to best Mexico movers. So I'll give you an example. Pretty much any international moving company, but us, will tell you that if your visa is more than 6 months old, you cannot move on the menaje de casa because the consulate will refuse to certify your menaje de casa inventory. Not necessarily the case. So if any of your audience is in that situation where they think, oh, darn it, and I get these calls all the time, my visa is more than 6 months old, no one will move our stuff, they may want to contact us and we'll see if we could help them. Sometimes we can, sometimes we cannot. But every once in a while, go ahead, Daniel.
No. Do you guys service all throughout Mexico, or are there particular regions you guys don't service?
All of Mexico.
All in Mexico. Okay.
All of it. Yeah.
And when someone's planning a move to Mexico, like what are some of the most common mistakes you see and how can they avoid them?
Well, first off, we wrote during the pandemic, we had nothing to do for a couple of weeks, and we wrote a Move to Mexico guide. It's free. They can get it on our website. It goes over things, not just moving your household goods, but things that you should think about, questions you should ask. We learned a lot of this the hard way because we did it ourselves and there was really no guide that I was aware of that will do this. But afterwards, we know how it works. So we created the guide and they can get the guide. It's free, doesn't cost anything. And it's not just for moving your household goods. So I would first read it, go through that.
Okay.
I would try to do some research, but when I say research, I'm a little reluctant to say that because most people, when they think of research, they think they're going to go on Facebook and ask, and people will give them the right answer.
And is that the right source?
I wouldn't do it. Try to go to someone who knows what they're talking about. If you want to ask a question about buying real estate in Mexico, ask Taniel. Don't ask some guy who thinks he knows. Well, it's true. You know what you're doing. People, and also, what does it cost if someone calls you, Taniel, and you answer questions? What do you charge them?
No, it's nothing.
Nothing.
No.
So why wouldn't someone do that? And yet, for some reason, people sometimes don't do that.
Yeah. I think you can get some good points and advice on different websites like Facebook or what have you, but also you have to consider the source sometimes. Just because someone's been coming to Vallarta for 20 years and they're hanging out at the beach, partying all the time doesn't mean that they know anything about real estate. And people are full of opinions, and sometimes it's not true. Just like, what you see on the mainstream media in the States sometimes, there's there to sell ads. It's a business. So sensationalism sells. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's 100% factual and truthful. So I agree with you. I think, if you're thinking of moving to Mexico or anywhere else in the world, talk to people that have actually made the move, or talk to people that are professionals that have helped, foreigners make that transition. And then you could make a sound decision, right? An informed decision based on facts and not just media BS or some drunk buffoon on the beach, who thinks he knows everything just because they've been coming down for 20 years and partying it up. That's just my personal take on it.
I think you're right. And the buffoon on the beach, I would ask his opinion on one thing, though. Where's the best bars on the beach? That's his expertise. So people have different areas of expertise. Yours is real estate. I wouldn't give people advice on real estate because I don't really know what I'm talking about. But there's very few people who will tell you, I don't know what I'm talking about. Most of them are very happy to tell you. And especially in Mexico, where things maybe are not as uniform as they are in the United States, you can get someone who even is correct for his situation, but not yours. As an example, you have to have a trust if you're by the water, right?
Correct. Fideicomiso.
The fideicomiso.
The restricted zone, sure.
Do I need a fideicomiso over here?
No, not in Chapala.
So if someone asks a question, do I need a fideicomiso to buy in Mexico? The guy on the beach will say, yes, you must. And the other guy will say, no, you don't. And because they don't know the context. That's why you want to talk to someone who, the way I put it is, I like to talk to people who, if they're wrong, there's a bad consequence for them. And that doesn't include the guy on Facebook. It includes Taniel. If you're wrong, there's a bad consequence. That's why you're not going to be wrong.
Well, also, you're not asking for a restaurant review. What's a cool new place for me to go eat? I mean, people are just picking up their life and moving to a different country. And that's coming at an emotional cost. It's coming at a financial cost. They're leaving, family and friends and whatever is familiar to them for so many years behind in the hopes of this new chapter in their life that's going to give them pleasure and joy for the remaining years, or, for the next 5 years, 10 years, or however long their plan is to live somewhere else. And so getting real factual information from professionals and other people that have made the move is so important. Again, this is not like, what's a great new Italian restaurant that I can go to? I mean, people are going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars buying a property, or just kind of leaving everything behind and moving somewhere else to start life all over again, or, for their golden years, retirement years, whatever you want to call it. And it's so important to have all that factual information and talk to the experts, talk to people like you. I mean, not only are you an American citizen who moved to Mexico, so you have that journey to share, but you also opened up a business in Mexico.
Yeah.
So a lot of people now, what I'm seeing in Vallarta is, I'm not just getting retirees moving here. I'm getting a lot of younger people in their 30s and 40s coming down here and opening up businesses here. So that's my next question to you is, over the years since you've had this business, have the demographics of the foreigners you're helping move changed at all? The age demographics?
Yeah, a little bit. We're getting more younger people.
Interesting.
I can't figure out why more younger people don't move here to begin with. It's astounding to me. I don't know why. But we're starting to get more. We're starting to get more people with children and so forth. But the vast majority is still middle-aged to older people.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, when I started real estate, it was primarily baby boomers. But now Gen X, they're kind of thinking about retirement, they're investing, but we're also getting people in their 30s and 40s, like you said. I mean, they're starting to move to Mexico, looking for new opportunities. The land of opportunity is just not north of the border. There's a land of opportunity in Mexico, and I think people are realizing that more and more, especially younger people.
There's much more opportunity here. And if I could sort of diverge a little bit, have you ever talked with any accountants, U.S. accountants, about the foreign earned income exclusion?
Well, I deal with it myself. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Does your audience know about it?
We've never talked about it. I haven't interviewed a U.S. accountant yet. That's on my list of people to interview. But taxation, cross-border taxation is really important. Yes, there's a foreign earned income that I deal with it all the time. So I've got a U.S. accountant, and of course I've got a Mexican accountant as well. So I have to file taxes in the States, even though all my income is earned in Mexico.
That's right. But there's a big exclusion in the United States.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want, you've already got someone, but if you don't, I could refer you to someone. This is the thing. I think once it gets out, Taniel, once it becomes known, I think it'll be much more likely that you'll have digital nomads or younger people who are not even married, who can essentially save themselves up to like $30,000 a year out of their pocket by being in a place other than the United States, completely legally. Once that's known, the economics are so compelling for moving, and especially a place like Puerto Vallarta. We know there's more younger people. Where I am, there's a lot of old people here, right? But where you are, maybe that's why you're seeing it more, is there's a lot more young people. And if they knew that they could exclude up to like $130,000 off their federal income tax if they lived in Mexico, that would get their attention. And that could finance their entire living costs.
The cat's out of the bag, huh?
But here's the thing that I don't understand it. There's two things I don't understand relative to what people know. One is that more people are not aware of the foreign earned income exclusion. And it's not something that's just started like 10 years ago. It's been around for decades and decades. The second thing is, and we touched on a little bit earlier, if Mexico didn't have such terrible marketing, and not that they're doing the marketing, but the perception that people have of Mexico in the United States, there'd be a lot more people want to move here, because the lifestyle for the same amount of money is absolutely not a close call. And if Mexico, if they didn't, but if that happened, obviously there'd be a gigantic demand and all the prices would go up and maybe it wouldn't be so great. But your clients and my clients are the beneficiaries of Mexico's bad PR, because the prices are still reasonable, to put it mildly. And
prices have gone up. I think post-pandemic, the whole planet's gotten more expensive. But relatively speaking, if I'm going to compare, like I'm from Los Angeles, and I bring this up all the time in these podcast interviews, every time I go to LA, it's like it's more and more expensive. And I don't know how the young generation is going to be able to put a down payment on a house. And just your regular living expenses, it's just outrageous. And are things pricier in Vallarta than they were 20 years ago? Of course. I mean, everything is. I mean, look at cars are not the same price. Healthcare is not the same price. I don't care where you go in the world. The cost of living globally will continue to go up, but relatively speaking to living on the coastline in California versus in Puerto Vallarta and other parts of Mexico, it's a lot less still. Thank you, Chuck. It's been great chatting with you. This is a great service you guys provide. I needed another resource to give people when they want to move their furniture across the border. So I'm glad we got to meet and talk about this. Thanks. Take care. Thanks for listening to Live by Design Mexico Edition. If there's a topic you'd love for us to cover, email us at info@tanielchemsian.com. We'd love to hear your ideas. And be sure to subscribe, share the show with a friend, and join me each week as we explore how to create freedom, adventure, and live by design under the Mexican sun. Design your days now, and your future will follow.